Right now, law enforcement officers in Texas can start arresting people suspected of crossing the border illegally.
A divided U.S. Supreme Court lifted its temporary pause today, allowing that law to go into effect. Senate Bill 4 makes crossing the border into Texas at any point other than a point of entry a state misdemeanor crime. Police can arrest people suspected of crossing illegally, and under the law, judges can order people back across the border.
Now, it's important to remember there are two legal fights at play with SB 4. There's the original lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of the law. That case is still playing out in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. And then there's the question of whether the law can be in effect while the court case plays out. That is what made it up to the Supreme Court and what today's order is related to. So again, today's ruling is not on the constitutionality of the law, but solely whether it can go into effect.
KVU's Matt Fernandez is here with us with reaction from both sides of this. Matt?
Right, nationally, State Representative David Spiller, who carried out the bill in the House, is celebrating today's decision, while advocates with the Texas Civil Rights Project say it's disappointing and threatens the integrity of our nation's immigration laws. State Representative Spiller, who represents Jacksboro, points out under SB 4 law enforcement officers will need probable cause to stop someone for the crime. So expects 95% of law enforcement of the law to be within 50 miles of the border. Misdemeanor crimes in Texas come with penalties up to 6 months in jail and have a statute of limitation for 2 years. But Spiller notes migrants will also have the option to return to their home country immediately. Spiller tells me today's decision is encouraging for SB 4 supporters about the future law.
At this point, that things are going well as could be expected, and so I'm very pleased with the outcome. I don't see a reason why it shouldn't stand up. This is not meant to fight immigration. This is meant to fight illegal immigration.
Meanwhile, advocates with the Texas Civil Rights Project fear how this decision will impact immigrant communities across the state.
Surprise and concerned, especially for the impact this is going to have on immigrant communities in Texas. The Supreme Court had overturned many years ago a concern that people of color are not going to feel safe going out into the streets, especially those who come from immigrant communities, because police are going to recognize a possibility that they could be in violation of this broad sweeping SB 4 law.
Again, the larger legal question is on the constitutionality of the law. The next hearing in that lawsuit before the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals happens April 3rd. Ashley?
Thanks, Matt. Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton both took to social media to applaud the Supreme Court's ruling, Paxton calling it a, quote, huge win. And while there will be future hearings on the law, Governor Greg Abbott says, quote, this is clearly a positive development, end quote.
Meantime, right after the Supreme Court's order came out earlier today, the White House criticized it, calling SB 4 harmful and unconstitutional. About 2 hours ago, the White House press secretary said in a statement, quote, SB 4 is just another example of Republican officials politicizing the border while blocking real solutions, end quote. The White House is also calling on congressional Republicans to support a bipartisan border security bill that previously failed.